Hello, Trombone Internet. This is Chris Van Hoff, assistant to the regional manager of the International Trombone Festival. We at the festival, of course, are huge fans of the pod, and we are really excited to invite you to attend this year's 2024 International Trombone Festival at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host. We have the world premiere of a brand new double concerto for trombone and piano with the Fort Worth Symphony. We have the American Brass Quintet. We have late night jazz featuring a Latin jam session. Like, everything is happening. All the cast will be there. It's the best hang in the world, and we hope to see you there. You can register for the festival still online at www.internationaltrombonefestival.com, and it's happening the last week of May. So go register. We'll see you in Texas.
After this, I'm going to go down to the theater.
Ooh!
And get a nice fundy session going.
Yeah? That sounds nice before your opera.
Yeah, I'm gonna practice at the ballet, then walk across the street or the plaza and go play 4.5 hours of Tannhäuser.
Have you practiced bum bum in all 12 keys?
You know, I've done it in most of the keys. It is an E major, of course, at the beginning, and the opera ends with a restatement of it in E flat major, which is very interesting.
Idea.
Hmm.
You said you're kind of bored? Maybe try swapping them. Spice things up a little bit, see what happens. It is the Fifth Position podcast, part of the Trombone Retreat podcast, which is part of the Third Coast Trombone Retreat. Should we just do that? 3 layers.
Oh, it's a conception. Is the top still spinning?
Yeah, just make it like really slow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we start this off with some tough news. Many of you are aware, and if you're not aware, our good friend Lance LaDuke, who many of you know from the Brass Junkies podcast. He's worked with the Trombone Retreat for many years now, being a guest speaker. I've known him for a while here in Pittsburgh. Anyone that knows him knows how amazing he is, and I don't need to wax poetic about that because you already know that. But he's dealing with him and his family are dealing with a really tough time right now. He had a really bad fall, and he's been in intensive care for a while now, at least over a week. And yeah, it's just scary. You know, we talked about how I had my fall like, you know, a year or so ago, and it was really scary, but not even half as severe as this. From what I heard, he fell kind of a good distance at his house onto a hard surface. And yeah, I didn't know how to really talk about it, but I just wanted to let people know in case they didn't know. And there's a good way to follow everything going on with Lance. And of course, we want you to send all of your vibes, prayers, whatever you can to the situation. The most recent update yesterday on the 5th was just a short one, but it was a tough one. I wanted to give you an update on Lance. He has had a couple of hard days recently. He has been unresponsive for the last 2 days, has a feeding tube, and is on a breathing machine. Please send extra prayers for him. So if you want to follow progress, I'm subscribed to his Caring Bridge, which is a great website if anyone's ever had someone going through a tough time where it's an easy way for everyone to communicate. And his website is www.caringbridge.org/visit/Lance LaDuke. And you can subscribe and keep updated. I don't think there's any way to visit or donate anything as of yet, but I'm sure if there is and you guys want to support them in any way, I'm sure that can. But we'll stay tuned to it. And we just wanted to send out great energy into the world for our friend Lance.
Yeah, I mean, definitely related to that. One thought that popped in my head is, you know, like you mentioned, if you've known someone who's going through an illness or an injury or something like that, Caring Bridge is very common platform to use. And hey, sometimes the internet has some wonderful things, and that's a absolutely wonderful resource. And they don't charge anything, and you know, it's just one of those things that helps the people who are going through the difficult time not have to reach out to a bunch of individual people. So they can post in one spot and reach out to everybody. And yeah, that's a wonderful thing. But also it's just, it's very sad to hear this about Lance. I mean, you know, he made literally one bad step and fell, and everything changes instantly. And yep, live every day like it might be the last one.
Absolutely. And it's a great place where you can also leave messages. I doubt he's going to be seeing these right away or anything, but you can leave messages to the people closest with him and send support. So we're thinking about you, Lance. One thing I was thinking about, I forgot to mention to you, we were talking about, you asked me how Thanksgiving went, and I totally forgot after we recorded, but so my dad is, I've talked about him maybe a little bit on here, probably not much, but he's older. He's in his early 80s now, and we have him in a care home because he just, he needs to be taken care of 24/7. But when I'm home, I'll pick him up, take him out to lunch, and right now, he's dealing with a lot of things. So he's just very quiet. He's very peaceful. He's incredibly sweet, but doesn't say much. And, he'll sit there and you'll plop him on the couch in front of the TV and he'll watch football for hours. But I thought, like, when I picked him up, I'd play him like the latest episode of the podcast, because he says he always wants to listen. He can't really quite figure out how to listen on his own. So we're listening in the car on the drive to Thanksgiving, and he's super quiet. I don't even know if it's registering or if he's really paying attention. I play the episode before the Thanksgiving episode, and it goes on for, I don't know, 8 minutes, and he's not really saying anything, but he seems peaceful. He seems comfortable. And then Nick makes a joke about sausage fingers, about not being able to type on the keyboard, and my dad just busts out laughing.
Really?
He's like, ha ha ha, sausage fingers.
Well, I have an audience. It's good.
And it really made my day. And he was listening, and I just wanted to share that with you. I hadn't told you that yet.
That's awesome. Yeah. I forgot about that. I'm glad you told me. That's funny.
There's a couple other moments he laughed at you too, and I don't remember, but it's nice. I mean, we're not professional comedians, but if we can make anybody have a good day or laugh about anything for a second, it's worth it. So moving on to our trombone Google alerts.
Oh, yes.
Just a couple little things. There's an article about Andy Griffith. Do you remember Andy Griffith?
Yeah.
Like the Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
This is something for our older listeners. For some reason, I was really into that show growing up, even though it was decades and decades before my time. It was all in black and white. Young Ron Howard in it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this article randomly about how his first love in the arts was the trombone, and that's how he got a trombone and got lessons with his preacher, and it was a nice little story, and it gave him the bug for performing. But it really made me think about, that is the first, because I watched that show so much, that is the first tune I ever learned on the trombone in 6th grade. I taught myself the dum 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 dee dum dum dum, and it's like a whistle thing.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It just made me think about that. And everyone was like, I still remember being in the band hall. I'm like, I figured out a song by myself, and like people walked in. They're like, wow, you're not even using music.
He's a sorcerer.
Got to get back to that natural stuff. Also, David Gibson, the very accomplished jazz trombonist, is coming out with a new album called Fellowship to be released January 15th. You can check out more info at jazzbone.org, which I'm very jealous. That's a very good
that's a great website. Yeah.
He is the one jazz trombonist.
Yeah, I like it. Well, hey, we snagged Trombone Retreat.
Yeah, because so many people were going for that.
Just under the wire. We got it.
I actually have a question from our audience for my friend Nicholas.
Oh, go for it.
So this question was submitted from Simon Jansen. I believe he's a bass trombonist as well. Nicholas, what inspired the rat tail mullet combo that Nick used to sport a couple years ago?
I mean, what inspired Monet? What inspired Van Gogh? I view my head as a blank canvas, and I let God paint his beautiful painting upon it. No, so more seriously, first of all, there was no rat tail.
I mean, it got braided sometimes.
It got braided. Okay.
There's that famous photo of Lexus.
Yes. It has been braided. I do stand corrected. I guess I would turn it. That's a mullet to rat tail transformer. And rarely seen in the wild. Well, first of all, I had really long hair. I didn't cut my hair the whole pandemic. So all my hair was long. Well, almost all. The top's a little thin. But we were going down to Arkansas for the
Trombone Festival.
Trombone Festival. God, my brain doesn't work. And I thought, I really want to do this method acting, and I'm going to fit into Arkansas by being like an Arkansan. And why isn't it Arkansas? Okay, whatever. I'm moving on.
Arkansasan.
So I thought, what better to fit in than sporting a mullet? And so I cut the party off the top and left it in the back, and had an old Little Rock waterfall going on there.
Little Rock waterfall. Some hot springs.
And then, of course, my wife hated it a lot. She hated it.
That's usually the prerequisite for you doing anything, right?
Yeah. I don't know how she puts up with me. I'm pretty impossible. But I kept it for a year before I cut it off.
Why did you cut it off?
It got insane. It was so ridiculous.
How often in public did people say something to you about it?
It happened a couple times where people were like, that's an awesome mullet, or like, whoa, they'd say something like that. But we were getting new headshots for the ballet website.
It looks great in a tux, I'm sure.
And so I did a Google search for barbers that specialize in mullets. And of course there was one in the East Village, and I referred to him as my mulletologist. And it was a cold, February day, and I'm all bundled up. I have a beanie on, and I come in. He's like, "So you want to trim up your mullet a little bit, huh?" And I took off my hat, and he goes, "Holy shit, that's a serious mullet! Whoa!"
You impressed the mulletologist.
Yeah, he was he made other barbers come look at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and a fun story about that guy. I asked him how he got into cutting hair. Just making small talk in the barber's chair, and he said, "Well, I learned in prison."
Whoa.
Yeah, and he said there's very few jobs in prison that they won't. You're basically protected in a way from the other inmates. And one of them is being a barber, because everybody needs a haircut. So you're not going to mess with the barber.
Wow.
And so, there's more than one in a prison because there's so many people, but he learned from a barber that learned from someone else and learned the trade. And he said that's how he kind of protected himself and made friends on the inside to have a safe stay in prison, as it were.
He's also got access to scissors.
That's true. Yes. So apparently, it makes sense. No one screws with the barber in prison. It's kind of a necessary service.
And if you give a guy a mullet cut, that's intimidating.
Give a guy a mullet, he'll dance for a year. Teach a guy a mullet, he'll dance for a lifetime.
How do you teach someone a mullet?
Honestly, you can't. It comes from an inner quietude, an inner peace. I know Sebastian particularly hated the mullet.
That is not true. I remember specifically you thought I would hate it, especially because we had a live. I think that's when we were interviewing Christian Lindbergh live.
Yes, we did.
And I think you sent pictures or something, and you showed up or something, and you were just really scared I was going to freak out or something and be like, "No, you can't do that." And I thought it was awesome, and you were surprised.
Oh, it looks great with a blazer on. Whew, man.
Well, maybe it'll come back. It's still, I like the look now. The thick beard help you. You don't need a scarf in winter now.
No. And not that I wear bow ties anymore. That's kind of gone away with modern dress. But I don't think I'd need a bow tie. It's kind of covered up under all this beard.
Oh yeah, you just forget it and no one will say anything.
Yeah.
Have you ever done my bass trombonist in the Pittsburgh Opera has a similar coverage in that area, but there's times he's forgotten ties. And have you ever done the thing or seen someone do the thing where they use black tape and create a bow tie?
Well, I've seen them do, I don't know what they call it. There's like a type of bow tie that's acceptable in dress codes where it's like it buttons together in the middle and it's like a little cross like that.
Oh, those look cool.
Yeah. And I've seen them do it with like that style. It's like, I think it's technically a bow tie, but it has a name and it's like a different style.
It's not a bolo, but it's like,
yeah.
I would, if there's a bolo company listening, and I'm sure they are, Sebastian Vera would like to be your spokesperson and bring bolo ties to classical music wear.
I love a good bolo tie with a crisp pair of cowboy boots. There's nothing better.
Are we technically allowed to wear a bolo tie with performance wear? I guess it depends on the contract.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Yeah. In the ballet, we don't have to wear a tie at all. It's optional.
Oh, then I would never wear one.
Yeah. So it has come time to pick at that bone, Sebi.
Got a bone to pick?
I got a bone to pick. It's I guess unfortunately related to my last bone to pick about sending out like contractors sending out an email to like a bunch of people at once. This is also a hiring contract email thing. Why do some contractors think it's okay to write you and say, hey, can you play this gig? And then not give you any details about what the gig is, where the gig is, how much it pays, how long the rehearsals are. It's like, well, then you have to like respond back and say, okay, well, maybe. And then they like this last exchange, I wrote back and said, well, what's the gig and when are the rehearsals? You just gave me the date of the performance and how much does it pay? And then they wrote back and gave me all that, but didn't tell me where it was. So then I had to write back again and say, okay, well, where is this gig? And turns out I couldn't have done it, but I was just like, that's such a waste of everybody's time. Why? You know, I'm thankful for getting offered work. I really am, but like, it's just it's like, it took 3 back and forths to determine if I was available. That should be a 1 back and forth situation.
That sounds like someone either who is incredibly inexperienced, incredibly disorganized, or used to everyone jumping at anything they offer and saying yes immediately all the time. But sometimes I hear there's a stigma about like asking how much something pays, like you can't be entitled or whatever, but I don't think it's ever.
Well, why should I be the one asking how much it pays? You should tell me how much it pays.
And then you feel like a jerk for having to ask, but I'm sorry, that should not be anything we ever feel bad about, is getting clarity about compensation.
Well, yeah, and along those lines, I've had people offer me gigs that aren't the best gigs and then apologize for offering it to me. Like, oh, like, I'm sorry if this is like offensive. And then I'll respond, I'll be like, I'm offended that you think it would be offensive. Like, you're offering me work.
Yeah.
And it's up to me to say yes or no, but I'm always going to be grateful that you're offering.
Yeah.
You know?
And you never know. It's not only about money. Sometimes there's another reason you might want to do it. Like, it's in a city you like, or it's with some friends you have that you haven't seen in a while, or something like that. So, I mean, never hurts.
I mean, yeah, I've done plenty of gigs where it's like, it's more about the experience. Either it's a piece I really want to play, or like, oh, Sebastian Vera is going to be on First Ramon. All right, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And so, like, even if I have to travel and like lose some money with travel to go do something that's going to be fun, that might be a good experience to have.
And that's way better than if Sebastian Vera was on second trombone, because that means I would be sitting next to you. And the last time that happened, I swear we almost got fired.
Was that in Huntsville? Was it? No. We said DCI&Y.
No, it was at the Kennedy Center.
Oh,
New York
right.
City Ballet.
Yeah.
And that's like the most, you made me laugh more than I've ever laughed in a live performance. And I was just like, fuck, I can't stop laughing. I can't stop laughing. Breathe, don't look. But yeah, we've told that story.
That's basically me and the tuba player every show, just making each other laugh all the time.
Which is important. It's great to laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like soup for the soul.
Well, I have a new fresh hot out of the oven Quora question from the internets for you today.
Yeah, bring it on.
I found this. This was deep in the Quora archives, asked 2 years ago. I'm playing the trombone in school. I tend to puff my cheeks out. How can I continue playing the trombone without making my face become chubbier? I think there's a fear of the more you puff your cheeks out, the cheeks will eventually give in, and you'll have like a little bulldog.
Oh, it's like
situation.
when it's like the old timey thing. Like if you keep making that face, it's going to stay that way.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that someone needs a medical or an anatomy book for Christmas. Wowzers, that's a doozy.
I think it is going to happen. It is going to happen. So stop puffing your cheeks.
Yeah, stop puffing. We have a student, I'll tell you off air who started intentionally puffing his cheeks because he said a lot of his idols puff their cheeks. And I told them straight away, I was like, that's crazy. You sound great, luckily, but that's crazy.
I mean, yeah, there are some very famous people that have done that.
My teacher, Don Harwood, famously puffed his cheeks, but he would tell you if you started doing it like all the time like him, he'd be like, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, because it was something that just developed for him, and he didn't, it's like, there's a lot of things. We all have those things in ourselves. So it's like, do as I say, not as I do, you know? Like I tend to tongue everything through my lips.
Really?
Yep. And so
we
students
just
will
lost
ask me
so many listeners.
But when I've tried to tongue like where you're supposed to, I can't do it. And so, you know, when students ask me, where does my tongue hit? And I'm like, well, this is where it's supposed to hit. This is where I do it. Don't do that.
When I get that question, that triggers the alarms, the teacher alarms in me of like, my student is thinking too much.
Right. Exactly.
You know, let's focus on what we want to sound like right now. Yeah. We can't forget that you can't spell fundamentals without fun.
Boy, oh boy. Don't I know it. Yeah. I'm after this, I'm going to go down to the theater.
Ooh.
And get a nice fundy session going.
Yeah. That sounds nice before your opera.
Yeah. I'm going to practice at the ballet, then walk across the street or the plaza and go play 4.5 hours of Tannhäuser.
Have you practiced bum in all 12 keys?
You know, I've done it in most of the keys. It is an E major, of course, at the beginning, and the opera ends with a restatement of it in E flat major, which is very interesting.
Idea.
Hmm.
You said you're kind of bored. Maybe try swapping them. Spice things up a little bit, see what happens.
Well, in the last performance in the third act, it's about maybe halfway through the third act, everything kind of goes down soft. And then with the baritone roll on stage, there's a low brass chorale. It's very beautiful. And it's just one of those moments that everything's placid and it's, you know, what I think non-brass players don't understand about those moments, how terrifying they can be, you know, because it's so hard to keep everything pristine and in tune and move all four parts together. And it goes on for like maybe a minute, maybe shy of a minute. So about 3/4 of the way through the chorale, I moved my notes. I moved from a D to an E flat, and I moved one half note too early.
Ooh.
And it sounded, and these half notes are slow. And it sounded rough because it was a G minor chord moving to a C minor chord, and a G minor chord does not have an E flat in it. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I can't quite empathize because that's never happened to me. I've never played a wrong note in the wrong spot in the last 24 hours. Yeah, that's brutal. Did everyone just immediately get up and run back to the box office to get their refund?
Yeah. I do have to give credit to, amazing conductor Donald Runnicles.
Oh, yes.
The Scottish dream. The Southpaw, he conducts left-handed, which is...
Is that weird?
You don't notice it really.
Okay.
There's an Italian conductor who switches, he's a switch hitter. He, in the middle of the opera, I think it has to do with he has shoulder problems. So in the middle of the opera, he'll switch the baton from his right hand to his left hand and kind of give his right arm a rest. Carlo Rizzi.
It's kind of smart.
But Runicles, being the seasoned pro that he is, he looked over at me, and right when I was supposed to move, he gave a big whew right there. He didn't freak out, nothing. And, live art, folks. Stuff happens.
I mean, I think you were just introducing early chromaticism like Wagner did.
Exactly. Cross chromatic modulations, augmented German sixths. There's a beautiful augmented German sixth right at the end of the opera in the choral line. Oh, it's really nice. Yeah, I'm getting more in. I mean, at first I was really not into it. I'm really getting into it, Sebi. There's some beautiful stuff in that opera.
When you're forced to listen to something for like 40 hours.
Yeah, you're going to find some things you like. It's like, ooh. There's a part where the bum bee bum that's called the Pilgrim's chorus, and they start way off stage, super soft, and they're almost like the level of a hum, that volume, and then they walk on stage, and then they walk off the other side. So it's like you get this whole chorus, and it builds up to being really loud, and then goes off in the distance again. It's really beautiful, stunning, actually.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I am curious now. I really would like to hear both of those major trombone choruses played at the same time just to hear what it sounds like.
I could, if there's anyone out there that would be into that, she's playing tonight.
Romero.
Sasha would be into doing that for sure.
Make a quick video and we'll post it.
Okay, if she gets there early enough, she usually kind of comes in late, but if she gets there early enough, I'll ask her if she wants to do that.
That would be awesome. You like during all the long tosses, you're just gonna be off doing it in another room, and you'll be able to hear it from the stage. Like, what the fuck is going on back there?
Yeah, Deb, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are you grateful for these days?
Oh man, that's what we call a segue in the biz.
Yeah, it's seamless. Ooh,
in the podcast business. Well, I was thinking about it today, and this is an easy time to remember things to be grateful for. Not that it's ever easy to remember these things, but it's important to try, in my opinion. But there's a few positions I have that enable me to perform in non-conventional places, especially during the holidays where a lot of people are wanting to experience the arts. And we get to go to a lot of smaller communities, smaller towns in the middle of Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, New York, and, perform for these people. And yeah, it can be a grind. You're driving a lot more. But once you get there, I mean, people are so excited, and it's such an opportunity. And I'm such a big believer in it doesn't matter what audience you're playing for, how big or small, or what venue, it can all be valid, because at the end of the day, art is a service, and you're bringing joy to people. You're bringing beauty to people. And I'm excited. I'm about to travel a bunch in the next couple of weeks. I think one interesting one I have coming up in, I think it's like Friday, is you'd be super jealous because we're performing in an Amish community in Ohio.
Yeah.
And they invited us to, if we come there a couple hours early, they have this giant Amish buffet and that they're going to give us free admission to.
Oh, that food is going to be so freaking good.
I know. And I'm nervous too, because they said it only opens up at like an hour before, like 6:00, and our performance is at 7. And I've really gotten in a habit of not eating too much, like too soon before a performance, because it really affects things. And so we're like, me and the guy I'm carpooling with, we're like, okay, we got to get there right at 6.
Yep.
First of all, there's going to be a line. And secondly, we got to start digesting right away. And the second we see a buffet, we're just going to go to town.
Yeah, get some unsweetened tea. The tannins in it will help you with digestion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why like in China and a lot of Asia, they drink tea. It helps with digestion.
That is good advice. That's good advice.
Well, if a fat person knows anything, it's how to tackle a buffet.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited about all these little trips.
That sounds like fun. That's going to be great. An Amish community in Ohio. Wow.
I have no idea. I imagine the audience will be a little more reserved. We're kind of crazy, and a lot of people are wearing costumes. A lot of the members of the band will sing.
Well, the Amish won't be there.
At all? You don't think so?
I mean, music isn't really allowed in the Amish community, depending on how strict the specific community is.
I'm
They're
curious.
not even allowed to have dolls with faces.
I thought they were the ones bringing us out, but yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, because like, for example, my mom grew up in like what would be considered an Amish community in Michigan, but it was the Amish live there, but also what they would call the English also live there. Us. So my grandpa, who was an auctioneer, I would. He went to auctioneer school. Believe it or not, that's a school you go and learn. Yeah, and he would sell livestock and stuff like that, and a lot of his clients were Amish. So I'd go with him, and he'd have to settle the bill with the Amish. And I tried taking a picture of a young boy once who was in the full. He caught me, and it was not very. His dad got very mad at me.
Yeah, you shouldn't. In general,
that was very disrespectful. But I was just so curious. It was my first time. At that point, it was my first time seeing an Amish person. And
yeah.
You know where they have a huge Amish community is Sarasota, Florida.
Oh yeah,
and there's an amazing Amish restaurant there called Yoder's. Yoder is like the Smith of Amish last name.
I have been to Yoder's.
You've been to Yoder's?
Yes, I spent Christmas there.
So good.
It was very good. Yeah, I'm sure they all listen to this podcast, so
yeah, exactly.
Let us know. Yeah, I know. When you see them in airports, I feel like they're more used to being stared at. Like you can tell, there's like kind of over being looked at. They know they stand out. So
yeah, I mean, what's crazy to me is like you go to a farmer's market anywhere basically, but in New York, there'll be Amish vendors, which is not unusual for farmer's market. But you got to wonder what they see when they drive into New York City. I'm sure they're used to it now, but it's got to be crazy to them,
Can't imagine.
Like, the opposite lifestyle. But I mean, I understand why they're coming in. They're just trying to make a buck like anybody else.
You kind of, with your haircut, you kind of look Amish. We could slap on a little hat and suspenders and...
Hey, suspenders are a gentleman's accessory.
I would like to own some suspenders.
If you really want to get fancy with them, a good pair of suspenders, they call them braces.
Trombone tip, I learned from Dave Taylor. Dave Taylor prefers to wear suspenders with suits because you can wear like a size bigger in your pants, be able to breathe as comfortably as you want, but they won't fall down.
Back when I was taking auditions, I used to wear a suit if I got past the prelims, and I had a suit that the pants were really big, and I wore suspenders with them, and it felt like I could sit or stand and breathe as big as I want and not feel restricted. It was perfect. So I kind of found it by accident, but it worked.
Trombone Retreat suspenders coming to a store near you.
Oh, now that is a good idea.
Can I tease that we do have merch in the works? We're like 5 years behind this, but we do have some stuff that will be happening and that will be awesome.
Drop us a line on what you think would be good merch for us to get, like any sort of specific thing that you think would be fun. We're always looking for ideas, but we obviously have some, but we'd love to hear from you guys too.
Absolutely. Send us in to tromboneretreat@gmail.com. Any ideas about merch, any questions for the podcast, any general comments about the podcast. We always love hearing from you. We always take the time to try to respond to everyone we can. Follow us on the social medias at Trombone Retreat, and Nick at BassTrombone444, and myself at js.vera. Did I cover all the bases? Remember to subscribe to the podcast, do a rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Helps us out a ton. And
smash that like button.
Smash it. And yeah, we just did an interview that'll be coming out soon, and we have a lot more coming up. So I will only have to say, make it a great day.
Love y'all.
Are you Southern all of a sudden?
Love y'all.